Now, in its 11th year, this is GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
From Harlem in New York City, this is the Ramble, and I am Alex Bennett. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's Larry Bubbles Brown. Hello, Larry.
Hey, Alex.
Remember when there was a TV show that was a failure called Hello, Larry?
That was McLean Stevenson.
That was McLean Stevenson. That was the show he did after
He
MASH.
left MASH for that, right?
Yeah, he did leave MASH. He actually left MASH.
Another good career move.
Went to do a show called Hello, Larry that lasted, 13 episodes, and that was it.
If that, I'm trying to I don't know if I ever saw it. I don't know what the premise of the show was, but...
It was, Larry, I'm trying to eat a pill at the same time I'm talking to you. Actually, a vitamin. I don't know what the show was about. It was about Larry saying hello. I don't know. Or people saying hello to Larry.
He was a funny guy. I remember he was on talk shows. I liked him.
Yeah, that killed his career fast.
He killed it, yeah.
I mean, he then appeared in some other things here and there, but nothing of the success that he had with MASH or getting that deal with, I think it was NBC.
Talk about, that would be a good book about people that make bad career decisions, like leaving shows became huge. There was a comic who, he's dead now, but the first year of The Simpsons, he was two of the major voices, and he left that.
Oh, boy. Yeah, well, you know The Simpsons, this is interesting. There was a guy, if you look at the credits, it says created by so-and-so, so-and-so, and Sam Simon.
Sam Simon, yes.
And Sam Simon was so disliked by his partners that he was kicked off the show in the second year, but he kept making, for the rest of his career, this incredible amount of money for creating The Simpsons.
He was unbelievably wealthy.
Yeah, and he did good things with his money, too, if I remember correctly. He died finally. But he, and I bet all the people on The Simpsons were happy with that, only because they didn't have to keep paying him all that money. But he made a fortune off that show. All he lasted was like 2 or 3 episodes.
Because he was an original creator, so he gets money forever on those. Yeah,
absolutely. In fact, I think he was a producer on the show, and they had to keep the producer credit. So. Interesting.
Yeah, he gave a lot of money to animals, and
yes.
Died of colon cancer in his 50s.
Really?
Said that he noticed the symptoms but just ignored them.
What were? Well, I don't know what the symptoms are. I always look up symptoms on the web.
Yeah, then you think you've got it.
Thank God you don't have fast internet. Because, I'm looking up esophageal cancer.
Oh, that's horrible, yeah.
I think I have esophageal cancer. That's what I believe. I've convinced myself of that, even though I have none of the symptoms.
That's what killed our old friend Fred Reese last year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't know Fred Reese had died.
Oh, yeah. He had... 20, 30 years ago, he had testicular cancer. Then he got esophageal cancer.
Wow.
He talked about it a lot on Facebook, online, I think, and it just sounded like it was horrible.
Yeah, well, I don't have GERD, which is the main cause of esophageal cancer. That's gastrointestinal. We have acid reflux a lot.
Get all that acid up there.
I don't have that. Never have. And when I did, I took some stuff for it that made it go away, So that can't be what it is. And then I have none of the symptoms of esophageal cancer except for maybe one. And it's the one, that you always amen on. Oh, I woke up last night in the middle of the night and I had a cough. I coughed. Okay. And then went back to sleep. Well, everybody every now and then coughs when they sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but me, I think I've got esophageal cancer. You know, you know, I'm at that age where you sit down and you say, what is it's going to get me? You know, what's finally going to be the crowning glory on my life? You know, so
Yeah, the cascade of horror as you get older.
Tomorrow I have my every 9 month, and then it'll be a yearly appointment with the urologist to take my blood test to see how the PSA is, and to stick his finger up my ass and to make sure everything's good up there. And you know, and I always worry about it. I always worry about it that the cancer is going to come back or something, you know. But the doctor who did my seeds said to me, he says, you've spent enough time not having a high PSA that it never will go up, you know. So, so but once a year I worry about it, right?
Yeah, I gotta sweat that stuff out. It's just waiting is annoying.
I'm at that age where you go, what is it that's going to get me? Yeah. And I even ask every doctor I ever had, like my the guy who did my seeds. I said, "Is this what's going to kill me?" And he looked back at me and went, "No."
No.
You know, like I was, what kind of idiot are you? Oh, that's the kind of idiot I am. I'm sorry. I have another friend who's just like that. His name is Larry Bubbles Brown. So, Larry, last time we talked, everybody was just dying to know how your hernia operation.
Hernia update. Yes,
yeah, you're sounding just like, you know, having had a hernia operation, which I hear is kind of a little off-putting. All right, you know, it takes a couple of weeks to really get back to normal with that. So I expected you to just sound a lot less laughable.
I did too.
Today. Yeah, and look at you. You're just terrific. To what do you attribute the fact that your hernia operation went so well?
That it didn't happen.
Again?
Yes, this is number 3, I think. This was not my fault.
Yeah, this is he goes to Kaiser, which is at one point you referred to as doctor assisted.
Doctor assisted suicide.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I think they have a building named after Kevorkian at Kaiser.
Anyway, so
I was scheduled 2 weeks ago to have the surgery done, and they get an email that said, yeah, it's January 17th. You will get a call from us telling you what time to arrive. If you don't get a call from us by the day before, call this number. So I hadn't heard from them, so the day before I called that number, not only it never goes to voicemail. I couldn't leave a voicemail or anything. So I couldn't get a hold of anybody. Tried it all day.
And if you tried it all day, you kept. If you dialed it wrong once, you couldn't dial it wrong twice.
No, it was the right number, but just I can't believe they didn't have something to leave a voicemail. And then it was Martin Luther King Day, so maybe nobody was there. But so the next morning, I'm waiting, and I get a call like 8 o'clock, and they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I didn't get a call from you. I didn't know what time to come in." And they said, "Oh, you're supposed to be here now, but now it's too late, so we'll have to reschedule you."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, did they apologize?
Well, after I said, "Yeah," I said, "I never got a call from you guys, and I couldn't leave a number." They said, "Oh, okay, that's on us. We're sorry."
We're sorry?
Yeah. But
doesn't give you much faith in your hospital, does it?
No.
No. You know, you're worried enough about this thing, and you don't have faith, you know, that these guys are doing what they should be doing.
Yeah, now it's really, the past 2 days, really hurting, so.
So did they reschedule?
Not yet.
Are they supposed to call you back to reschedule?
They're supposed to call me back. Yes, you know how that works.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Shame on you, Kaiser. You remember years ago you got in trouble for that line on my show.
Oh, yeah. It was they sponsored the traffic report, and I still have the angry memo from, but what was the line? The Kaiser, it said, Kaiser, we're different from the ground up, and I tagged it with, because that's where all of our patients are.
Oh, jeez.
So I got this memo from...
Was it on that you got the memo?
Metro Traffic that said, pull all Kaiser spots immediately.
But
yeah, they were not happy with that.
I thought it was because you said it was doctor-assisted suicide.
No, it was the traffic thing, and we're different from the ground up.
Yeah, that's
where all our patients
are.
are.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, boy. Yeah.
That was the shit. I miss those days.
Yeah, it was strange because he didn't actually work for Live 105. You got a paycheck from what? Metro Traffic, was it?
From Metro, yeah.
There's this company called Metro Traffic. I don't know if they're around anymore. And they literally supplied traffic to radio stations. And if you had somebody like Bubbles who was actually in the studio with you, they paid him, not the station, because they had the advertising in that segment, and they made the money off the advertising. Apparently not from Kaiser.
Oh, they were so livid about that.
Did you get a call or anything, or did they just write you?
I think they called Pat, the GM, but they didn't call me. So.
What's with this guy, Larry Bubbles? They must have hated. They must have hated you over at Metro Traffic. His traffic reports, actually, people look forward more to his traffic reports than my show.
Yeah, we had sound effects, and we just make fun of cities, and
and somebody's stalled on the Bay Bridge, and your line was,
"Park it, whore."
Oh boy.
That became a big catchphrase, for Park It Whore.
Yeah, you had Park It Whore T-shirts, didn't you?
Yeah, I sold a few Park It Whore T-shirts, yeah.
Do you have any of them left?
I don't, no. They'd be collector's items now.
I guess they'd be collector's items. I don't know. I had a whole bunch of T-shirts, for every show I do and things like that. So somewhere I have still a pile of them.
Really?
Yeah.
You could sell those.
Yeah. We had like the Bobcat Goes to Hollywood T-shirt, and we had, we did all kinds of T-shirts. And
Bobcat Goes to Hollywood was July of '85 at the Circle Star.
Oh boy, jeez, almighty! I know you were there, weren't you?
I was not at that show, but I didn't do your first show till April of '86. But
didn't you come to the show at the Circle Star though?
No. That. Although I've been told people have told me that's the greatest comedy show they've ever seen. That one.
Really?
It was Bobcat, Dana Carvey, Warren Thomas, Bob Rubin.
I think that was it.
Yeah, I heard it was just amazing.
We could only afford 4 people.
And I never even got into that. That was such a cool play. They had the revolving stage, right?
Yeah. You had to know how to play that stage. It's called the Circle Star. That's why it's called the Circle Star. I saw Frank Sinatra there in later years.
He and Sammy Davis were one of the original investors of that theater.
Oh, the Circle Star?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, yeah. I saw Frank Sinatra there. Oh God, in his last years. I mean, I'd wait all my life. I'd waited to see Frank Sinatra. I mean, my father played with Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
Like at the Cal Neva Lodge and some places when he come to a concert in the Bay Area. My father played with the orchestra in those. And in spite of the fact that I was with him in Tahoe when the Rat Pack pretty much was playing up there. And I never saw it, It's not like he could get tickets to let me in, because it was a very small room anyway, the State Line room. But what happened was that I never saw Frank Sinatra until his opening act, the comedian
Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen, yeah. I was remembering the name Tom, and I remember the last name started with a D, and I was trying to come up with it, but I can leave it to you. I'm going to carry you around as as my memory. Okay.
I'm like Siri.
Yeah. Who was the opening act for Frank Sinatra? Anyway, Tom Dreesen, he did my show one morning, and he said, "Why don't you come on out? I'll leave you a couple of tickets, and then I'll take you backstage and introduce you to Frank." And I went, "That sounds cool." So I go to the Circle Star Theater, and my seats are like third row. You can't say center because there is no center in that theater. Third row. And he then comes and gets me, and he says, "I would like to take you back to meet Frank." And he said, "But I can't, because Jilly just died today, and he doesn't want to talk to anybody."
Oh.
And Jilly was like one of his best friends. He was a restaurateur in New York City, perhaps mob associated, you know.
Frank was always on the fringe of the mob, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, listen, Frank had every reason to like the mob, because when he had that bad period for only a couple of years, when Columbia had fired him and MGM had fired him, and he had nothing, they would still hire him. They brought him in to work their clubs to keep him eating, okay, as it were. And so he always felt a fond affection for those people because they saved his career. And that's a good reason, pure loyalty.
Yeah, the mob was great for entertainers.
Well, I mean, they also own most of the venues.
Yeah.
The Copacabana here in New York was mob-owned. You knew that anybody who played there was managed by the mob, or somebody, like, you know, or the mob liked them or whatever. I mean, the Copa played, Martin Lewis played there, and Sinatra played there. Well, anyway, but anyway, Jilly was like one of his best friends, and he died that day, and Frank just was very despondent. But he got up and he did a show, and the problem was there was nothing worse than seeing Frank Sinatra, especially if you were a fan, in his latter years, because he was terrible. I mean, he couldn't hit the notes right, you know, he didn't have the chops left. And at one point, his son, Frank Jr., was, you know, conducting the orchestra. And
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Frank was doing one of his songs, you know, from with a cigarette, because it was one of those, you know, saloon songs that he sings, one of those love lost songs. Maybe make it one for my baby and one more for the road, you know. He's smoking a cigarette. By that time, I don't think he was smoking. He was just pretending to smoke.
Probably not, no.
And finally, at the end of the song, he throws the cigarette, you know, dramatically to the ground and then stomps on it. But he misses the cigarette. And the stage at the Circle Star was a rug. And as he goes into his next song, smoke starts coming up from the cigarette. And Frank Jr. is leaning over while conducting the orchestra going, "Dad, the stage is on fire." And Frank looks down and sees what's happening, so he then takes his foot and puts the whole thing out with it. Continues with his song. True show business. He put out a fire while he was singing.
So what age would he have been then?
God, I don't know. I looked it up. I looked up that concert, and I think maybe he was. God, I'm thinking. Hold on a second. Echo.
He was born in 1915.
Yeah. Echo. How old was Frank Sinatra when he died?
Frank Sinatra died at 82 years old
82 years old.
in Los Angeles, California.
December 12th.
His cause of death was bladder cancer and heart and kidney disease.
Bladder cancer, 82 years old. My age. Well, younger than me. So he was 82.
But when you saw him perform, he was probably like 10 years younger?
Well, let's see here. He died. Hold on a second. Echo, when did Frank Sinatra die?
98.
Frank Sinatra died on May 14, 1998 at the age of 82 years.
Okay, May 14th, 1998. So I would say maybe it was 1998, and I wasn't. I was still. This was my last year, I think. There, maybe may have been out of Live 105 by then. So I have to say maybe it was 3 years earlier.
Okay. So.
The problem is that he married. He married
Barbara Marx.
Barbara Marx, who was
Harpo's ex-wife.
No, not Harpo's. Zeppo, I think.
Zeppo, okay.
Zeppo's ex-wife, or it might have even been Gummo's. I can't remember. People don't remember Gummo. Gummo,
the least known Marx brother.
Yeah. Well, there is another one, Aleppo, but that's a joke. It's a war joke. No, but Gummo only worked the Broadway shows, and so that was it for Gummo. He left the act and became an agent, very successful agent, as a matter of fact. And I think he may have even managed the Marx Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so you had, I think maybe she was Zeppo's wife. And she kept him working till he died. She just wanted the money coming in.
Wow.
And usually, a good wife would go, hey, you've had many good years, Frank. Why don't you just retire and we'll go and we'll tour the world and whatever. No, she made him keep working. And everybody hated her. Everybody absolutely hated her.
Mm.
They loved Nancy, and they loved, who was it? Well, Mia Farrow. Good God. He married Mia Farrow,
So do you think he knew his voice was shot?
I don't know. I listened to his records in later years, and I go, whoa. Didn't he know that he didn't have it anymore? I mean, I have a recording of him in Milan singing April in Paris, and that beginning thing, which is da 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 da. He just completely is off key, just completely, and it's horrible. And since it's a recording of it, that he must have heard it. It was never released, but he must have heard it. Because somebody gave me all the recordings Frank Sinatra ever made, including the stuff that was like black market and whatever, of concerts in like Milan and Paris and so on. And as the years go on, I can almost tell Frank Sinatra what year it was he recorded a song by how bad he's singing.
Wow. So they're like athletes. They actually run out physically.
Well, they don't. If you're not. Well, I mean, he was working, so he was using the pipes, but he didn't take good care of them, that to begin with. Over the years, he drank, he smoked, That's not a good way of taking care of your voice. On the other hand, you had Tony Bennett, who, even to his last concert, was okay, because he treated his instrument like it was a precious violin, And so that's where Frank's ability waned. Also, I think he probably just started getting a little bit of a tin ear, and it didn't he didn't have the chops anymore.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that instrument anymore, quit. Say, hey, I had a good run. I got some wonderful recordings I made that will live forever. It's time to go. But no, he just kept going. And he kept going because Barbara kept pushing him out there.
That's bad, yeah.
More money, so it's kind of like what happened to Elvis at the end. I mean, the Colonel was shoving him out there doing gigs he wasn't capable of doing anymore.
The Colonel, getting 50%.
Is that really true that he got 50%?
That's what I read, yeah. He was, because he was a manager. Agents are, by law, restricted to 10%. A manager can get whatever he negotiates.
So he was a manager.
Yeah, so his manager, he settled on 50%, and
he's the one that made him make all those dopey movies.
Yeah, I thought he kind of ruined Elvis. He made all those crappy movies. He kept Elvis from performing in England, which would have been amazing. And
Elvis never went to Europe.
No.
Never played Europe, and
And that was because the colonel was from, I think, the Netherlands, and I think he'd left Europe under very shady circumstance. I don't think he was allowed to go back. Maybe that was it, but he kept him from going.
Well,
to,
so you don't go, and you send Elvis, and you can manage him from afar. Hey, listen, we're running out of time here. You know.
That sounds ominous.
Any gigs you want to plug?
I got nothing. Valentine's Day, the Throckmorton Theater, yes.
Valentine's Day at the Throckmorton Theater. Oh, okay. All right.
Not far from the Tamalpais Motel.
Just a stone's throw from the Tamalpais Hotel. Hey, thanks, Bubs. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
Okay.
Larry Bubbles Brown, ladies and gentlemen, playing Absolutely Nowhere.
Now, in its 11th year, this is GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Well, thank you so very much. There we go. Okay, I got to turn things around here. I had some audio up and down, and it was not working just right, but let me do something here. Let me bring this down here. Well, wait a minute. That's as it should be. Okay. All right. I'll figure it out tomorrow. Tomorrow's a day off. I can set everything up and fix everything up and so on. Anyway, hello to everybody out there. I wasn't here last night because of my eye, which is, as you notice, is better, considerably better today. Last night I slept, and somehow during my sleep it got better, but I don't know. But I had this puffy eye. I don't know what it was. You can still see it. You see, it's still kind of red over here, red. See? But we're okay. We'll survive. I don't see anybody waiting to come on here. It's like I was off last night, so now nobody wants to have anything to do with me. I don't see where we have any... Josh is not here. Kevin's not here. A lot of people are not here, but we'll give a couple of people a chance here and see what we can do. Let me admit some people here, and let me see here. Oh yeah, and here we admit Alan. Okay, and then I will do my here we go, the Zoom. Wait, hey, Jeff, you got to turn your audio off. We'll survive. I didn't see anybody waiting to come on here. It's like... There you go. That's fine. See? He did it. Okay. All right. Thank you. Hello, everybody. How are you tonight?
Doing good.
Good. Doing good? Okay, let me see here. Let me turn this stuff down here. I'm trying to get the levels all right here. Anyway, so what's new with you, Charlie? Anything?
Now I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to train new umpires.
Why do you have to get up that early?
Because it'll be 105 in the afternoon, so you got to do it in the morning.
Oh God!
A nice cool day in Texas.
Going to be terrible, huh?
I hate getting up. I hardly get to sleep by 8 o'clock in the morning, much less getting up then.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
Well, don't take this as any kind of a slight, but if we don't get more people here, I'm going to sign off early because I finally the eye. Does it look better? It looks better tonight. Right?
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah, it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm on a black and white monitor, so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you said that last night. It was a good.
Well, actually, it's not one of those black and white monitors. It's one of those green. Remember the green monitors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were those called? I forget now.
Phosphorus, weren't they?
Phosphorus? Oh, okay. Oh, here comes Josh. Okay, I wonder where Josh was going to be. Because there are quite a few things to talk about today. Although I wish we didn't have things we had to talk about, but we do. Hello there, Josh. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, been a real good day at the Supreme Court today. Those guys are kind of getting to be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Here comes Tom Yamaguchi. Oh boy! All of a sudden, we're flush with people here now.
Yep.
There's Tom Yamaguchi, Charlene Rodriguez,
That's all right.
Martinez.
I'll be Rodriguez.
That's okay.
Whatever.
Martinez. And,
No, I can be Rodriguez.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. And Josh, what do you think of the Supreme Court today?
I followed it a little bit as I was working on stuff. I mean, that's but it's probably not really the way I see some of that, but they have their, judicial philosophy, and they're not really.
Is there anything right that they had today? They have anything right?
Well, I mean, as far as the law goes, I don't dive into a lot of it too much as to how they determine their, how they justified it. I mean, I don't personally have too much a problem
Rodriguez.
with,
Martinez. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Yeah. Jeff, is your audio up? Can you hear me, Jeff?
he's muted. So
But we can't hear you. Now you're muted.
How about now?
Oh, okay, fine. I think you're okay.
Not really the way I see some of that.
No, you got a problem.
I'm going to reset it. Okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, bye-bye. See you later. Right that they had today. Yeah, oh boy. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yeah. So, was there anything that they ruled on today that you kind of thought, okay, that makes a little bit of sense?
Well, like I said, I didn't get into everything in very much detail. I skipped over it, a decent amount because I was working on some stuff. But I mean, I don't have too much problem with the fact that I saw, the one case kind of allows parents to opt out of certain books or whatever. I mean, I don't have too much problem with something like that.
I was going to say I don't have that much of a problem either. I mean, if a parent doesn't want his kid to be completely educated, that's their decision.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not really saying maybe that's what I might do personally. I'm just saying I can at least appreciate, a parent looking at a certain book and saying that's not a book that I want my child to be told they have to read. I mean, as an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't really know much of the specifics of the case or anything. I'm just kind of, in general, saying that I can kind of understand that.
They didn't even say the books can't be available. It just said they cannot be taught in school, in the class, or being.
I'm not too sure. I thought it was something about, like some parents want to be able to opt out of the assignment. And like, I'm assuming that back when they did, a year or so ago, whenever this all got started, the school must have said, no, you can't opt out. Like if your child doesn't do this, they get an F on that assignment or whatever, and that will affect their grade, and you don't like that too bad.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I understood it. I could be wrong though. I kind of understand that one, a little bit. That's, I don't think that's too radical, I mean, even if there was a dissent there, and I get it. I'm just saying that was not. I don't see that one as like off the map or anything. I mean, so
no. I kind of, although I've never been a parent, I was kind of siding in a way with the parents, in that I felt that a parent should make the decision as to what books his child reads, and if one of them he's being forced to read in a class is something that goes against their religious beliefs, then I suppose, if they want to keep their kid ignorant, that's their problem. Yes, Tom.
Well, I thought Jamie Raskin today came up with a great response, and that was, well, what about parents who object to a teaching of evolution because it's against their religious beliefs? So that means that their children have to opt out of biology class every time they talk about evolution. I think this whole this whole thing is ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, what as a parent, what control does a parent have over what they want
parents-
when you talk about books that promote diversity when it comes to sexuality, you and I might agree, but there are people out there that don't agree, and they don't want their kids to be taught that. And I think a parent has a certain right over that kind of thing. Biology,
Parent has the right to put their kids in a private school.
Yeah.
If they really object to a normal curricula, and the books that were cited had nothing to do with sex. They're talking about they're about diversity. They're about socialization, and there are many gay parents who have children in school who want to have that kind of exposure to your early, so they don't feel stigmatized.
but they're not saying those books aren't available though.
Well, it's a matter of, as we said, opting out. But where does it stop? I mean, as they said, Jamie Raskin says evolution. There's all kinds of things that people can object to on religious reasons, and there's opting out. They can just opt out of public school and send their kids to private school. That's what they can do.
Well, suppose they say to you, I can't afford a private school.
Homeschool.
Yeah, or it's
A
homeschool.
lot of people are doing
A
that.
lot of people homeschool.
Okay, all right. Do all states allow homeschooling?
I don't know.
I believe so.
Yeah. Because
California does.
Texas does. Yeah.
A lot of people did it during COVID.
At what point in the school year do you think, Tom, and everybody else here, do you think that the question of sexuality like that should come up in the studies, if it is going to be taught in school?
Well, I mean, I have a granddaughter in school now, so, and I've gone to back to school nights, and there's a lot of things they're teaching they didn't teach me when I was a kid. There's a lot of things about slavery, and segregation that I wasn't taught when I was a kid.
Found that
if people have a problem with that today, well, that's their problem. I mean, it's just the reality. Gay people are a part of society now, and I think our schools have an obligation to teach what is really happening in the world.
Let me tell you something that happened to me in school when I was going to high school.
I heard this one
high
before.
School.
Yeah.
You've heard it before.
Many times. Intelligence.
We had a book on, I don't know, does it come under sexual? What would the book come under? Biology or something like that?
Psychology, was it?
Either sexuality or...
Yeah, and there was a chapter on homosexuality.
Oh, it's a different story then.
And my teacher passed it up and made us go to the next chapter. Why? And you know why, but why do you people think he went past that chapter?
Probably closeted.
Yeah, he was gay.
Yeah.
He was gay. So we didn't learn anything about it,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think a parent, when you're talking about Darwinism, you're talking about a theory of evolution, okay? You're not talking about a theory of homosexuality or heterosexuality. They are givens, okay? And maybe they don't want, what they were, I think, disagreeing to were some books that were very positive about this. Saying, it's okay to have two mommies, it's okay to have two daddies. And if I were gay, I would want my kid to be able to read that book. But I then again have the option to go out and buy it for him as well. I don't know. I was just kind of iffy about that, and...
I think it opens up a real can of worms.
The other thing that came up today, of course, was the question of... It was cases of people having to do with what do you call it? Oh God, my mind's a blank today. It's a blank every night lately.
Are you talking about the birthright citizenship?
Your birthright
Oh, okay.
citizenship.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. You got so
Although
much already.
the ruling had nothing to do with birthright
No,
citizenship.
it's not a decision on whether birthright citizenship is a given in the Constitution. It was a question of local courts being able to create a federal precedent, basically.
Yeah. Or have that ruling be recognized nationally until
Yeah.
it's over.
Now Trump went on his, what do you call it, tour? His I did wonderful here tour.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get the Peace
When
Prize.
really
Get the
that
Obama.
he didn't get the kind of decision he was describing. He got the feeling that, I can do anything I want to do, and that's not what it said at all. It just said that
In a way, he
that if it's a California court, then it should apply to California, not to the whole country. Now, I imagine a federal court is a different situation altogether, but I don't know that I agreed with that particularly, but it wasn't as terrible as like MSNBC was presenting about. Oh, there goes the. What was it, the 17th Amendment or something like that? That was the amendment.
Well,
14th Amendment. It's part of the 14th Amendment. And it guarantees that people that are born in America of foreign parents have automatic citizenship. And the president gets up and he says, well, that was done during slavery, and it was meant to say that blacks could have automatic citizenship. Well, they certainly didn't have the privilege of it, But the fact was, no, that wasn't the reason they did it. Maybe that was the impetus for it, but that wasn't, when you say if you're born in America of foreign parents, you're automatically a citizen.
Right.
Okay? There's no question about it.
It was ruled a previous Supreme Court. It was a Chinese man took his case to the Supreme Court and won. So it has definitely been established by the U.S. Supreme Court that a person, who's born in this country, whose parents came from another country, is still a U.S. citizen.
Yeah. Yes, Charlene.
So I saw all this, Alex, but so they upheld birthright citizenship? The Supreme Court?
No, there was no decision. There was no decision on that at all. Trump would like you to feel it was a decision about that.
Okay.
Luckily, his attorney general said, no, we're waiting for that to come around in October.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on the back burner or something like that. Okay.
So what it means is that particular ruling only applies in that case, and that means every other person has to get their own ruling, which could take years.
I see.
Oh, that'll clog up the courts for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, with what he's
doing.
doing.
Meantime, Trump is, as he said, he can get away with anything unless it does get to the U.S. Supreme Court and does get that ruling. But how long is that going to take?
Right. With the way things are going, there's thousands and millions of people that.
By the way, our Supreme Court expert is Josh. Josh, let's say the Supreme Court rules on something, but we feel they're wrong. Is there any other resort we have, or is that the law?
Well, it'd be the law for the time, but I mean, we could pass a different law or amend the Constitution, depending on what the question was.
Lots of luck with that. The Senate tonight, for instance, passed something that said that that the president can do anything he wants to do when it comes to war powers. If he wants to go back to Iraq again, or Iran rather, again, he can do it tomorrow, and he doesn't have to ask us first. And the Senate voted that way.
They passed it in the Senate? I thought I read that. I read that.
Yeah.
Well, just because the Senate passed it doesn't make it law. I don't know what vote you're referring to. I read that there was a war powers provision, or like an ask for it by Tim Kaine that failed. So I don't know that they didn't actually vote for anything. They voted against a recommendation by Tim Kaine, something that he wrote,
Mm-hmm.
to try to sort of, I guess, reinforce the way that he interprets the War Powers Act, et cetera. I mean, I don't think they're going to get very far on the unconstitutionality of a president ordering one single bombing run. That they're never going to win on that. I mean, and I don't think they should. I mean, I think a president certainly has the power to authorize such short-term, type missions and operations that do not need to be explained to the entire Congress out in the open, that are time sensitive and or need to happen quickly, and any chance of a single drop of information of it leaking out, could jeopardize the entire deal. I mean, and that's not saying whether I like what he did or not. You know how I feel about what happened. We talked about last week, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, the Democrats who were going on TV saying, "Oh, it's completely unconstitutional." Well, I mean, I don't know. They didn't really say that when Bill Clinton, bombed the North Koreans in, '94, or when he sent people to Somalia. And I mean, so I mean, those short-term sort of actions. I mean, every time a president of the United States wants to drop a bomb or have someone fire a bullet, I don't think it requires an act of war.
Aren't they supposed to go through the committee, though, like the Gang of Eight or whatever first?
Well,
because
they
those eight
do that. Yeah, I mean, I think they can skip that at times on the front end, and it has to be done, sort of within a certain period of time. They do have some laws around that where they are informed, but that's, informing them and asking permission is two different. I don't think a president has to ask permission, and that has nothing to do with Trump being president. I mean, so I mean, if it were up to me, Trump would have a little collar he wore that they could shock him all the time when he did. But so I'm certainly not on his side. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, here are a couple of more lies that I detected today. Number one was his statement that the Democrats, if they don't vote for this bill of his, the really fine, wonderful, terrific bill, that your taxes will go up 68%.
They keep saying that.
Is there any proof that that's true?
I don't think so.
He's threatening. That's what he's doing.
I don't believe anything he says.
Doing his typical threat lies.
Yeah, yeah. And then his other thing that just drove me nuts, we just had a little mayoral primary here. Yeah. And the guy who won is a democratic socialist. He describes himself, and he's very honest about it. He doesn't hide it. He doesn't try to sugarcoat it. But Trump today, for about the third time in a couple of days, has called him a communist.
Exactly, yeah.
Really? I don't think Trump knows what a communist is.
Yes, he does. All communists are his friends.
What?
I think he thinks that all communists are his friends.
Then why would he accuse somebody of being a communist?
I don't know.
Well, Putin,
because he equates socialist with communist.
Right.
Because he's a moron.
Well, he's pulling something out of a playbook that's like 60 years old when you accuse somebody of being a communist.
That goes back to Roy Cohn, right?
Oh, yeah. Goes way back to Roy Cohn.
McCarthy hearings, yeah.
Well, I mean, back in the McCarthy hearings in those days, yes, calling somebody a communist was, a real problem. Today, nobody, there are kids who don't even know what a communist is, So, I mean.
He cut off talk with Canada today.
Yeah, he did that too.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And a lot of auto parts for building cars and trucks and semis come out of Canada. A lot of our car name brand car tires.
This man will destroy America. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I don't know that we have any way to stop him.
Gary.
Midterms.
Vote.
Midterms.
I don't know.
Yep.
Midterms?
Sure.
Maybe, but do you think that the Democrats are prepared to win the midterms?
I don't think
Not right now.
Have they learned nothing? Have they learned nothing from the win here in New York the other day?
Well,
You know,
that was nice, but
I mean, given with what happened here in New York the other day, I don't even know if Schumer can get reelected to the Senate.
That wouldn't
right.
be a bad thing, though.
Oh, it'd be a great thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You know.
We need to get rid of Schumer.
Well, I mean, you know, if the people in the Democratic Party have to wake up to the fact this guy ran a really good campaign. How good was it? In January, he had 1% of the vote. The other day, he won.
Yeah.
Okay? So what does that say to the Democrats out there? You know?
If there's hope.
What, hope? They won't listen if they listen to him. What?
I don't think the New York mayor's race has anything to the Democrats anywhere outside of New York City.
Well, I don't know that saying you're a democratic socialist in the Midwest somewhere is necessarily a good way to run, but certainly the kind of honesty and the responsiveness to people's needs that this guy had were terrific. You know, I'm gonna make sure that rents don't go up. I'm going to have free bus service. I'm going to do a lot of things that people responded to. City-owned grocery stores so they can keep the prices down and maybe force them down at all other grocery stores.
That's a good idea.
If he does it.
Idea.
If he does it.
If he does it. You know,
We've heard that before, and how many times have they ever come
I think
through?
he's the first guy I've seen that I honestly believe will live up to his promises. You know? Because I watched him on television the other day, and they asked him, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for that? And he had an answer for all of it. You know? Yes, Charlene.
Sorry, but to Josh just said something that made me think, I'm in New Jersey, right? Which is not New York.
Mm-hmm.
And
we've noticed that.
Right. But I'm
Isn't there a joke about that?
I'm on these social media sites, right? And they're like things that you're supposed to be looking for someone to cut your grass and all this other stuff. And I'm reading all these things, even on my Ring doorbell, Alex. And it's people fighting in New Jersey about the gentleman that won in New York for the mayor of New York. And they're fighting about how he's a communist, how he stinks and all this. So I got in there and I was like, listen, we haven't even gotten another running mate, like for a Republican to know. It's like, and I'm like, why, if you're living in New Jersey, are you getting so heated about what's going on in New York? And, it's like,
it's none of your
nuts,
business.
Alex.
None of your business.
Yeah, like mind your own business and vote for the right governor.
I mean, if I said
in New Jersey.
if I was a kind who said to Bernie Sanders, it's none of your business, and I didn't think it was any of his business. Okay, Ocasio-Cortez, yeah, it's her business. He it was a New York City election, and she's part of it here, and she's actually from his constituency. And so I saw her, involving herself in it and having every right to. But Bernie, come on, Bernie, you're up in Vermont. What are you involving yourself in our business?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a national campaign called Our Revolution, and they're endorsed. I mean, these national organizations like his do endorsements of candidates all over the country, and so he has a right to endorse a candidate.
He can endorse him. I just don't want him coming in and politicizing, and that's what he was doing.
I think it's time for Bernie to retire.
I like Bernie.
Well, a lot of people like Bernie because at least him and Ocasio-Cortez, they're Democrats that are doing something like every day, and they're really into like trying to do something at least.
He worked with Abby Hoffman, Alex, I think.
Who?
Bernie Sanders, briefly.
He worked with what?
Abby Hoffman.
Abby Hoffman.
Yeah, he helped him on the case.
He helped. He what?
Yeah, he helped him when he was. I forgot what it was actually, but he was working with him, helping him on things. It was really neat. I remember following it.
I don't remember that at all, and I
Yeah, you
knew
get you
Abby.
the article. I could send it to you. Yeah,
I knew Abby personally.
You knew Abby. I know
yeah.
that. Yeah,
He
you
was
knew
with him. I
that.
forgot what it was about. Hold on, something with. I can look at it here. Well, this is where they were together here talking about the meet. This is a while back, but then he had. Hold on a second. He was doing something. I forgot. It was for a river or something, and something else. Something.
Well, no,
there was.
I was up there for that. The St. Lawrence Seaway thing, Save the River, and it wasn't him. It was what's his name? That other New York, I believe, senator, who was up there helping him with that. And when he was told later on, when Abby finally turned himself in and everything, did you know that your picture was taken with Abby Hoffman up there? He says, I thought that was the guy that was heading up the Save the River, and he was. And the reply from this senator, I'm trying to remember his name now. Oh God! But he said, "I'll be damned." You know,
Moynihan?
I think it was Moynihan. Yes, it was Moynihan. It was Moynihan.
Moynihan. Oh,
Yeah.
Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
Yeah. So now, have you changed your mind on that one? That might have been Moynihan.
You know, maybe. Well, I saw another thing with him. Him and Abby were talking about. I can send you the clip. It's 30 minutes on discussing the media a long time ago together. How the media was portraying things.
Send that to me, Tony. I want to see it.
I can send that to you. It's 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, but that might have
I
been
thought I
late.
saw it with something else. I
That
couldn't
might have
remember.
been later on towards the end of Abby's life. It had nothing to do with saving the river.
But it was something else I saw. I got to look for it. No, maybe I got him confused with it, but I thought I saw it was something else with him helping and doing something.
You kind of read stuff like Trump does.
No, it was in the court. I remember seeing it in the court. I got to find it again. It was two things I saw. I'll find
Well,
it.
just type in Abby Hoffman.
Yeah, I'm doing that now, and I see them getting together with the media thing. Hold on, and I thought me to Bernie Sanders again, Abby. I saw it.
What is that? It's dark in color and it's round. It's sticking out from between your crop. There we go.
Alex, you had a boat story about him going to Canada.
Yeah, I like that story.
You were with him.
He took me out on a boat. Ronnie, Susan, my wife at the time.
Yeah.
And his I guess, she was his girlfriend, I guess. And
he was
significant
leaving
other.
the United States. Yeah.
And we went up to Canada in the boat. As he was, Barry Freed was the name he was going by. And we went up and we had a very nice day out there. And at one point we were going up this little part of the river and estuary or whatever. And he said, see that over on that side? I said, yeah. He says, that's the United States. See this bank over here? Yeah. That's Canada. That's how close I live to getting away from the United States.
Right.
You know, so.
And did he go to Canada then? I forget. He did, right?
Well, he went to Canada with me that day. We went up to,
that was
Canada.
it?
Yeah.
Because, refresh me again, Alex, not that we want to get it, but why was he, because they were persecuting him because he was burning the flag and
No, that wasn't the reason at all. I know why, because he got arrested for selling cocaine.
Yeah. He was framed, basically.
Hmm?
He was framed.
he was framed. Okay.
Yeah. Here's why I think he was framed. Okay. Abby borrowed some money from me because he needed money to do something or another. I can't remember what it was. And he said, you're the only guy that I know that I could get credit. That was it. I could get credit. And so I could give him, what's the word you use? Bank,
Cosign?
Co-sign a loan. Yeah, co-sign a loan. So I could the only guy he knew could co-sign a loan. Okay.
Yeah, that's the story. I remember that one. But go ahead.
And so I co-signed a loan for him. And then he got arrested. And the first word he got to anybody from inside jail was, he told his wife to call me, and she did, and tell me the loan didn't go through. Now, my question is, if you're dealing in cocaine, do you really need a loan from Alex Bennett?
By the way, Alex, one of my favorite visits to your studio at the Quake was the day that Abby Hoffman came in and was one of your guests.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed that appearance. Show you how long ago it was. When he came in, one of the first things he said was he put his fingers up like this and he said, 2 questions in Trivial Pursuit, which meant he was the answer to 2 questions in Trivial Pursuit.
I see.
Yeah.
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 He had a lot of influence on our culture.
Yep.
He did, and
Steal this book. Yeah.
I loved him dearly. I mean, he was just the funniest person I knew, and I really liked Abby. He was a good person. Well, I told you about the night that he invited us over to dinner, and at dinner he says, because he cooked. He was a great cook.
Really?
He had gone all over Europe when he was on the Lamb from the Law, and posed himself as a food critic who would then be allowed into these various kitchens, and he would literally steal the recipes. And then he came back. He was a great cook, so he cooked a great dinner for us. He says, "We're having a special guest after dinner tonight." And we were all trying to figure out who could it possibly be. You know, is Jerry Rubin coming over? Is so and so coming over? Finally, at the end of after dinner, in walks Tennessee Williams.
Yeah.
Who was like my hero. He was like my hero as a playwright. Okay, and he came in with 2 young boys. And not, I don't mean underage, but young men.
Yeah.
He sat at Abby's feet, and he's looking up at him and saying, "Tell me about the revolution, Abby."
Yeah, like he
and
was.
I'm thinking, Blanche Dubois was Tennessee
That's what
Williams.
I was gonna say.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the character.
Yeah.
But it just ruined my whole hero worship of him, because he was completely the opposite of everything I thought he would be, because he wrote these very, very man-like books, I mean,
he was tough, Stanley
Kowalski and
remember all these
Cat in a Hot Tin Roof.
Cat in a Hot Tin Roof.
Brick was very, then I realized.
But Alex, the Brick thing, that's what he was caught between, remember, in Elizabeth Taylor and Paul Newman, she was like accusing him of being too close to what was the guy's name, his boyfriend, there was a question there of maybe, but they couldn't say it back then, maybe there was a homosexuality aspect
later on
there.
he wrote a couple of plays in which he dealt with homosexuality
more intensively.
But he was my big hero as a
he's
playwright.
amazing.
He wrote some of the best plays of the 20th century. Amazing, just amazing. But anyway, that was my big night with
Tennessee Williams
and Abby Hoffman. And it was, and then being with him and hiding, that was something else too. But anyway. Yes, you have your hand up, Jeff?
Yeah, well, I would just say that when you went across from Canada to the United States, you could probably walk right across.
No, you could have walked. You could have, we could have walked. It was that shallow.
Back then, back then.
Right, and my wife's husband lived up there, and he used to get up every day because it was quicker to get to the high school in the American where he was, but it was through the Canadian area.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course today, you cannot do that stuff anymore.
Well, back in that day, what he was saving was, and it was the river was being encroached upon. They wanted to have winter navigation, which, if you know about winter navigation, if you have an iced up river and then you move a ship through it, what does it do to the sides of the river? It ruins all the wildlife on the side of the river because all this ice is being shoved onto it. So he literally stopped winter navigation on the St. Lawrence Seaway. And he had a big organization, and they did it. They pulled it off. I went to a meeting where he was there with Marianne Krupsack, who was the lieutenant governor of the state of New York. And she's cozying up to him because he's the big guy that's in charge of this, you know. So he did more when he wasn't able to poke his head above water than he was when he was out there yelling and screaming and doing all his TV stuff. So the other great story I have is we had dinner at this restaurant, and we're talking, he and I and his girlfriend and Susan and I. And we're discussing various things. And as the evening goes on, the restaurant starts to empty out to the point where there's only the four of us left at one table in the restaurant. And at one point, he got mad at his girlfriend, and he stood up, pounded his fist on the table, and said, "I know what I'm talking about. I've been in jail 3 times." And I went, Abby, and I'm going like this, you know, like, sit down, be quiet, you know. He goes, and at the top of his voice is, "What was it for?" You know, I mean, he was amazing. Every time you were with Abby, you walked away with a story, you know. So.
Or handcuffs.
No.
He was no.
Alex, he had like a Boston accent or something, right?
No, he was from Boston. He was from
I remember, you know,
not
hearing
Boston,
him.
but up near Boston. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I miss
I guess
him.
having a Boston accent is better than having a New Jersey accent.
Why can you say that? That's not.
I'm just teasing, Shirley.
Well, Boston accent's very colorful.
It is.
I like that, the Boston, you know, they draw out the A. Like the Kennedys. Yeah.
But actually, I think Charlene's accent's not New Jersey. It's more New York.
Well, where are you from originally, Charlene?
Oh, I was born in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
But then I migrated for like 25 years to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then unfortunately I had to come back here. But, you know, because I think New Jersey is kind of weird.
So anyway, we're getting back to what we were
it
talking.
makes more sense.
What we were
Sorry
talking
about that,
with the nominee, the almost nominee. He will be next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday, when they codify it, when they do all the. There's this thing, ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting, right? Yeah.
Which, I don't know if I agree with it, but anyway.
I love it. Are you going to have ranked choice voting in the general election too?
That I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Because that's the way it really should work. I mean, in fact, that's why sometimes
you go in, you vote for
instant primary.
Yeah.
Because basically, instead of having 2 elections, you just have 1. And generally, the primary turnout is pretty low. Although I guess the exact New York, I guess.
Well, no, the trouble is you've got too many people in a primary, and to have one of them get 50% is almost impossible. So by doing the ranked choice voting, you then go, who do you want as number 2? Who do you want as number 3?
Exactly. Yeah.
And eventually somebody will pass the 50%. Okay.
Right.
And that's the reason it's done for a primary. I don't know that I would want it to be done for non-primary, for the regular voting.
And it's the way we do it here in Berkeley, and it works really well.
Yeah, but
there are a lot of people that won't show up at the primary, and they'll have 2 candidates selected for them that otherwise wouldn't want. And here you've got an opportunity to say, well, I like this person, but I don't really think they have much of a chance. So I'll hedge my bets by putting this other person as my number 2.
Well, I voted for Cuomo, and I voted for Cuomo primarily because I felt he saved my life back in the day with COVID. But if I had known more about Mondavi, whatever his name is, Mondavi, I probably would have voted for him instead. I mean, I think the democratic socialist part of him, and saying I'm a democratic socialist when it's not to your advantage to say that, because most other people wouldn't say that, I really approved of. I thought that was brave. I thought that was gutsy. I thought it was honest. And I liked the proposals that he had, but I didn't vote for him, and now I feel bad that I didn't. You know,
Well, you get
but
a
I'll
chance,
get the
you get a chance in the general election.
Absolutely.
I just thought it was really interesting. The other guy, Lander, is it the color?
Yeah.
You know, they did this thing where they did. They endorsed each other in order to block Cuomo.
Yeah.
And actually, that's been done before. In fact, the first ranked choice vote in Oakland for mayor, you had Gene Kwan, Rebecca Kaplan, and Don Parada, and state senator. And Don Parada was expected to win as state senator, but like Cuomo, he was sort of, let's say, sleazy, and there's a lot of ethics violations against him. But he lined up all the unions.
There were no ethic violations against him once they were all looked at.
Okay, but
he
anyway,
wasn't charged with anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, but anyway, so what happened was Kwan and Kaplan decided they were going to have this campaign. If I can't be your first choice, make me your second choice. And by that happening, the same way, they were able to.
No, that's not the way he got it. He only got so far 35%. He has to get 50%.
Well, yeah, I know, but
I'm saying what happened was they haven't added those votes in yet. The ones that were second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or whatever. But they will do that by next week, and he will go over 50%.
Right, because basically Cuomo. That's the reason why Cuomo conceded, was because he realized, to cross endorsements, all those other votes that Lander aren't going to go in his column. They're going to go.
But you haven't heard the latest. Cuomo hasn't decided. He's decided he's running as an independent.
He has made that decision.
He had to make a decision not to by tonight, and he didn't.
Oh, okay, all right. But he did concede the election on that night, even though
he conceded the primary. Yeah.
Conceded the primary election.
But now it's he and Adams, who is also a Democrat.
Yeah, will be running.
Will be running against Mondami, and the question is, will Mondami? I never can quite get it straight.
I don't remember it either.
Mondami, will he be able to rue the day, given that you have those two people as spoilers? Okay. Now, I would hate to see Curtis Sliwa become the mayor of New York City, but...
That is so funny, yeah.
Mayor Sliwa.
Mayor Sliwa with the beret.
But he still wears the red beret. He still thinks he's a teenager.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I think it would probably be best to have the right choice voting for the general election as well.
Actually, I'm going to see if I can get Sliwa on here, because he's a fan of mine.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And I want him to come on. I'll say, hey, I'm not for you. I would not vote for you in a million years, but I'd like to hear what you have to say. And we can sit here and argue and discuss things and have a good time.
Alex, the ex-governor again. Which one is it again? Patterson?
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? He's your friend too, right?
I knew him for a while there. I don't know him. I don't have a current phone number on him, but I like Patterson. Good guy. But he couldn't see me, so, it was...
Right, I got it too.
Actually, I think he had better eyesight than you would think.
Wasn't he legally blind, I think?
Yeah, he was
right?
legally blind,
but I think he could see shades.
Yeah, because I left him off on the street, and he just turned around and walked in the right direction and back to his apartment, so... What have you, But good guy. So anyway, it says iPhone entered waiting room. I don't know who iPhone would be. Let me see here. Let me just put myself here, and let's see. It might be Bree, because he waved goodbye to us a few minutes ago. And let's see if the person's not joining fast enough. Okay, I'm going to get rid of him. Oh, well, there we go. There we go. Let me see here. Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, here we go,
Remove.
yeah.
Yes, remove. Remove. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, well, I didn't think that was when it says iPhone. Yeah.
Right.
Let me go back to you guys here. Yeah. So anyway, what else was happening this week too? Well, the Imam of Iran said that they'll be up and running again any day soon now.
Yeah.
So.
Time to make the bombs.
Well, here's the stupidity of this. Is how stupid Trump
could've
is.
moved it,
No,
too.
really, no. This is how stupid Trump is. You don't have to lie. You could say, we dropped the bombs. We think they did some damage. We'll let you know when we can assess it. And everybody will go, good. You tried to help America. You thought you were doing what was right and whatever. But instead, they lie from the get-go. We bomb them into obliteration. They'll never get there. What? I saw a guy, he's going to be on Sunday on the Face the Nation, who is with the International Nuclear Commission or whatever it is. And he said, we don't know what's happened there, but we think they'll be up and running in a couple of months. So, I mean, here is the other thing that was interesting. When they were interviewing, who was it? They were interviewing, it was an Iranian, and they said, you do realize that Israel has 90 nuclear warheads. And nobody brings that up, that they have that many. I mean, how can you tell somebody when their enemy has 90 nuclear devices that they could lob your way, that they can't have a nuclear device as well? You got to get both sides to give them up, But you can't say, hey, you can't do that. That's bad. Wait a minute, they have a right to protect themselves, don't they? And if you listen to them, we never can see your face, Alan.
Yeah. It's just the flag there, yeah.
What are you down on the? Are you falling asleep? Is that what that is?
No, not at all. I'm looking up International Nuclear Society.
Wait, do you have your? Are you using an iPad?
iPhone.
Oh, okay. It's not the International Nuclear Disarmament Commission, I think, is what it is.
I'm trying to find something to send to Phil to show that we don't know what damage was done.
Well, we don't know.
Who knows?
Well, he says that, Trump obliviated. Trump told us.
No, he didn't obliviate.
Yeah, we know that, but he doesn't know that. And I want to get some proof other than Fox News or
he may
CNN.
he may have damaged greatly those particular places, but there are probably others as well. I don't think that we have a president. Tell Phil that we have a president. He keeps looking for the leak.
Yeah.
Right? And he's blaming the Democrats for the leak. You know the biggest leak was?
Him, yeah.
Donald Trump with his Truth Social posts.
Yeah.
Tweeted out everything.
I think I'm going to do it in 2 weeks. And we know where the Imam is because we know where he is right now. And you better go hiding. What?
And then on top of that, I hear the news
Right, he said they had 2 weeks.
On top of that, the part I don't believe, and the part that never made any sense to me, is Iran called him to say they were going to drop a bomb in where do you call it?
Qatar.
In Qatar,
Yeah.
at the air base. and asked if it would be okay, and I said, "Go ahead." What?
That sounds like so.
What president has ever told a perceived enemy, "Go ahead, send a missile our way, we can take it"? They said it took us time to get our people out of there, so, you know.
One of the scariest things to me is Trump has the power to send a nuclear weapon there or anywhere he wants.
Well, I mean, so do the Israelis.
Yeah. Well,
You know, I just want the Israelis to give up theirs if we expect Iran to give up theirs.
I
Okay?
disagree.
Huh?
I disagree.
Oh, you disagree? Oh, okay. So
I'm more pro-Israel than you are.
it isn't a
But
question of being
Alex is
pro-Israel. It's a question of saying to somebody, give up your nuclear weapons. We don't want you to develop your nuclear weapons. And they're saying, but the guys who are sending missiles our way have 90 nuclear devices.
Yeah, they have to defend themselves against that, right?
What?
That's
How are you
right.
gonna?
Thank you,
How,
Shirley.
how do you argue against that? You know, what do you say? Oh well, do as I say, not as I do. And then they say, hey, what was the only country to ever drop 2 bombs on a human population?
Oh,
We got that.
United
Victory.
States.
You know, and Iran's not responsible. Come on, you know. I mean, I'm not a big proponent of Iran because
I'm not quite sure why we're telling Iran that they can have a nuclear program or not.
why we have the right to do it.
Well, you know, a lot of presidents have asked them to sign a treaty saying they would
And we had one signed.
Yeah.
And guess who screwed it up?
Yeah, well, I can imagine who.
Donald Trump.
Right.
First time. So they started ramping up their nuclear thing all over again.
Well, they took that as a threat from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh has been a little quiet. Anything you want to say, Josh?
I don't have anything to add, no. I spent most of the day disconnected from all that stuff, so.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Well, I can't be disconnected from him because I know a certain woman who just constantly watches MSNBC, and I guess I've got to watch them along with her. And I kept saying to her, it's so boring. It's so boring, you know. They find one thing to talk about, and then they just drive it into the ground.
They beat it, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched cable news in several decades.
We, after the last election when Trump was elected, did not watch it for a year. And it was wonderful. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, we started watching again.
Without cable news, you have internet news or a rabbit ears on your TV.
Well,
right?
you don't have to watch anything because nothing is going to be the complete truth.
That's for sure.
Everybody's going to be able to parse things their
Have
way.
their own spin on it. Yep.
Yeah, their own spin. So, you know.
It's hard to get the real news anymore.
Yeah, it really is. Anyway, hey, listen, wait a minute. Hold on a second. There we go.
Which reminds us, we lost great news person. We lost Bill Moyers this week.
Yeah, Bill Moyers,
Yeah.
right.
Bill Moyers. I tell you what, great journalist.
Bill
I
Moyers
lost my
Journal.
uncle Alex this week. My uncle I used to work with.
Who? What?
My uncle, my mom's brother, the hat guy, he died. My uncle.
Really?
Yeah, it was. We were expecting it. You know, still sudden.
And Tony's becoming a billionaire because.
Well, no, he left me some money, Alex.
Anyway, hey, I want to thank Charlie for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Charlie. You didn't say much of anything, but that's okay. You know, Alan, thank you for being here, and Josh, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Charlene, enjoy New Jersey. And how about Tom Yamaguchi? I love him being here. I just do.
Or native of New Jersey, South Jersey.
Yeah, you were from
Really?
Jersey. That's right, Tom.
Oh, okay.
Kevin, thank you so much. Nice seeing you again. Jeff, fine. And Tony, it's good talking to you again. Everybody, why don't you give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. And there goes our citizen panel for tonight. We'll be back again, let's see here, back again on, when is it? Oh, on Monday with the pop-up show. That'll be on Facebook. And then we'll be back here on Wednesday. Same time, same station in life. In the meantime, stay tuned for Amy Manuel. And if you see her, well, not Amy, if you see her, tell her I love her. Okay. Good night, everybody.